Welcome to The Savvy Sauce, where we have practical chats for intentional living. I'm your host, Laura Duggar, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's message is not intended for little ears. We'll be discussing some adult themes, and I want you to be aware before you listen to this message. I'm thrilled to introduce you to our sponsor, WinShape Marriage. Their weekend marriage retreats will strengthen your marriage while you enjoy the gorgeous setting, delicious food, and quality time with your spouse. To find out more, visit them online at winshapemarriage.org/savvy. Welcome to The Savvy Sauce, Casey and Meygan.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
So thrilled to have both of you. And let's just dive right into one of your sweet spots. How can open-ended questions change a marriage?
Yeah, well, if you think about when we first met somebody that we fell in love with, felt attracted to, that first date, as you're sitting across the table, you are looking at that person with so much curiosity. Like, who is this person? What are their hopes and their dreams and their life experiences? What are they afraid of? Where are they going in life? And that curiosity drove us to ask really good open-ended questions. Like, tell me more about yourself. It's funny because we were just reading in Proverbs this morning that in a man's heart, he has a purpose, but a man of understanding draws from the deep wells to pull that out. And I always think about how a great question plumbs the deep wells of a man's heart or woman's heart. And that attraction, that energy we feel helps us with asking great questions. But then what happens is when we get married and we move into the wash, rinse, repeat of childcare and chores and, the mundaneness of going to work, coming home, dinner, it can really sap all of the romance out of a relationship. And so what happens is we fall into asking really boring questions like,
how was your day?
Who's picking up the kids?
What's for dinner? Yeah.
So we realize that when the well is dry, so to speak, you're not asking those great questions. We need prompts. We need an outside prompt because I don't think naturally we would ask great questions to spark this connecting conversation. And I will tell you too, that if you just dropped in and, just asked your spouse, like, hey, so tell me some boundaries we need to set up with your parents. People are going to be like, excuse me, where did that question come from? And what's the question behind the question? What's your motivation here?
Yeah.
But those are conversations we need to have. We just need prompts. So, yeah.
Well, I love that response. And I'm also curious, after working with so many married couples, what have you seen as that connection between these amazing prompts for open-ended questions and emotional intimacy?
Yeah, well, kind of like what Casey was mentioning about just that curiosity of getting to know each other. I think the other part of asking those open-ended questions and having these deeper conversations is really about the intentionality. Like, you still care about me. You still want to know about my heart. Well, for us, 25 years later, right? I still care about you. I still love you. And I think that, of course, as women, we long for that emotional connection. And I don't think that men realize it, but they actually long for that too. And it's creating a safe place for spouses to share, to cry, to even dream together about their future. And I think, again, if we don't give ourselves those opportunities and we're not intentional with that, we get stuck in the mundaneness of marriage.
But I would add to that curiosity, Meygan and I have talked about how curiosity is the pursuit of something, right? And we all long to be desired, to be pursued. I mean, that underlying communication is so powerful in relationships because if you think about it, if you're not being pursued and your spouse isn't curious, I mean, that's like the heart of apathy. It's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I know that people aren't intentionally trying to communicate that, but when you feel that, like, my spouse doesn't really care about what I dream about or what I'm hoping to achieve this year.
They just come home and they just watch TV or they're on their phone.
Yeah.
That communicates a lot non-verbally. And so that's why these open-ended questions are something that we should never stop being a learner of each other and of ourselves. And that will provide that emotional intimacy.
That's so good. And obviously, your resource is amazing. I would love, because you have these 365 connecting questions for couples. And so I want to just hear maybe 3 of these questions that come to mind for you guys, especially as you've heard these are the ones that tend to unlock something deeper in the conversation.
Absolutely. So August 3rd is, are you someone who spends a lot of time in deep thought, processing things before making a decision, or do you tend to make quick decisions? Why or why not? That question has genuinely sparked so much conversation between us and even like with our kids and other couples. And maybe you can explain why.
Yeah.
But
well, I'm Mr. Impulsivity, so
yeah, you are. Where I wouldn't consider myself a deep thinker, but I definitely like to make pros and cons lists and think through things. But if you think about a dynamic between a husband and a wife, you know, there are so many decisions that you make together, small and large, your whole life, every day.
Decision making is huge in relationships.
It's an everyday thing that couples are tackling. And it's important to know that not one is better than the other. It's not that a deep thinker is better than a more impulsive person. It's kind of more just naturally how you are. Have you always been this way? Do you like that about yourself? Wow, you know, well, when it comes to these bigger decisions, I do make more time, you know, thinking through and pros and cons. Well, with small decisions, I'm more impulsive. I mean, you could just talk about that for hours and hours.
Yeah, but what's interesting is I tend to think more futuristic and big picture.
Yes.
Even though I'm impulsive in the moment.
And I can't do that.
You are Miss Realist.
Just tell me today, tell me this week. I can't think about
this fun sponge.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I'm like, let's dream big. And she's like, yeah, but what's happening today?
Yeah. Yeah. Another great question is January 18th. How can we romance each other during the day in anticipation of sex? Because as we all know, us ladies, we need the foreplay. But again, I think that husbands also enjoy the foreplay, but I don't think that couples are having these conversations. I think they think of foreplay is, well, once we enter into the bedroom, you know? And what we like to say is it's anything positive is foreplay. So a thoughtful text, you know, a flirty, I'm going to grab your hand.
Emptying out the dishwasher.
Amen. Yeah. You know, so it's those kinds of conversations, but like, I would never think to ask you that.
Right.
Right.
That's true.
Thankfully for those.
But as you know, Laura, like couples that need to talk about their sex life. And if you don't talk about your sex life, most oftentimes there's a lot of assumptions and that leads to, you know, just dysfunction.
Well, and missed expectations.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. And then I have another question. April 25th is, how do our differences help complement each other?
Oh,
so kind of another one of those things like with making decisions, every single couple has differences. And we always tell people, Casey and I are more different than alike. I think people see us online and whatnot, and they hear, oh, we're both extroverts. We are. So we have some similarities. We're both stubborn.
Very competitive.
We're both competitive. But in the day-to-day operations of who Casey and Meygan are, we make decisions. We run our lives.
Run our business.
We are completely opposite. And what I think it's good to do for couples is to actually own your differences rather than shy away from them or make yourselves feel bad. Like, oh, I wish we were the same. I get it. You know, we actually are attracted to those things when we're dating. That's why opposites attract. But then when we get married, it's like, well, why doesn't he do everything the same way I do it? Because I do it the right way. That's what we think, right?
Well, you've heard the joke that marriage is about becoming one. And in the earlier years, it's about which one.
Yeah, which one? Which figuring out. Yeah. And so that question really allows you to identify your differences, but then go, how do they balance each other out? Yeah. And I think for me, as someone who's organized, type A, Casey's very spontaneous, if we were both type A and structured, we wouldn't have a lot of fun. We really wouldn't. His spontaneity really brings out that side of me. But if we were both spontaneous, our bills would never be paid and we'd be broke. So, I'm a saver. He's a spender. You could see the balance in that. It's good that we're both those things, right? I'm on time. He's late. We could continue going on and on and on and on. But I think that he's a risk taker. I'm a complete play it safer. And so those really draw out a beautiful balance in our marriage versus trying to change one another. So I hope that question sparks listeners to really ask your spouse that and have fun with the conversation.
Wow, you chose 3 great ones. I love it. And they draw out such different parts of our personality. You highlighted where Casey's more futuristic, Meygan, you're more present. Some people will connect with questions that direct them more past oriented. And so our orientation to time comes out, and the meta conversations, the talking, like having the conversation about your conversation, just so much goodness. And yes, especially with sexual intimacy, so many couples report that it is much harder to engage in conversation about sex rather than just have sex. And like you said, missed expectations can be one of the blow-ups there, among many other things. So you have questions that don't shy away from all forms of intimacy.
Yeah. And to also say, we have a lot of fun questions too. Like, tell me about what your bedroom looked like when you were a teenager.
That's a great one. I love that one.
We always tell couples, if you had a really hard day with the kids or at work, pick a fun question. You don't have to go by the date. If you don't like the question, it's triggering, then flip to the next one. But going back to that emotional intimacy and connection that you were talking about, Laura, is you have to have those deep questions and those conversations. And you did when you were dating, because if you went on a date with your husband and you were like, hey, tell me, what do you want to do when you're retired? And he was like, I don't know. I don't know. You'd be like, snooze fest. This guy's boring, right? Or if he was on his phone the whole time, there was something intriguing about your spouse.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. There was something intriguing about your spouse when you were dating and you were asking those questions. That should never stop. Just like we hear that quote, never stop dating your spouse. We'll never stop learning about your spouse. It's the same thing.
Absolutely. And I love how you two have such a humble approach, because you say that you're a very unlikely couple to help support marriages. So will you let us in on your own backstory?
Yeah. Well, Can I just start off by saying this?
What?
We live in a county that has one of the highest divorce rates in the nation. So it's 72% divorce rate where we live. We also come from, there's 12 marriages between our parents.
Mm-hmm.
So we come from so much divorce and trauma. And then we also got married very, very, very young. So all those statistics were against us on top of that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start off by saying that. But
yeah, my mom's been married 6 times. So by the time I hit junior high, I had probably like 9 different iterations of home life and different dads and step siblings and half brothers and all of that between both of our parents. There's some mental illness, there's affairs, there's all this trauma that was really unprocessed. But then when Meygan and I saw each other, it was like, we knew the wounds that we shared. It was like almost like a trauma bond.
Yep.
Like, oh, I've got abandonment. So do you. And you know
we
what?
Both do.
It's like, wow. So let's make each other happy. And dating was just all the fun stuff, right? It was long walks along the beach. It was going to street fairs or, going out and having fun. And then we're like, if this is what life could be like, then we should do this forever and ever and ever. And just, we were so doe-eyed of and optimistic about how marriage life would look like. So then once we did get married,
dun, dun, dun.
we had to work through stuff. Now, I was so conflict avoidant because I was afraid if there was conflict, then that means that there's going to be distance between Meygan and I, and she might leave me.
Oh, there's another difference. I'm a fighter. He's a flighter. So anytime we would have conflict triggers,
yes,
emotional regulation, I was like, we're going to go for it. Now, of course, my fighting tactics were not healthy. I yelled, I blamed, I was very aggressive, assertive.
Conflict was very scary for me. Now Meygan, she's wanting to deal with issues. And here I am trying to run for the hills. And she's like, he doesn't care about me. And I'm like, I'm trying to protect the marriage by not dealing with it. So
we never really resolved anything.
No.
We would fight really bad. We broke all the fighting rules. And then there was no true resolve, no apologies, no remorse. And you just kind of move forward. And so
then we piled ourselves, like we had over $250,000 of debt. When we started to tried to work on getting pregnant, we dealt with infertility. I have ADHD, so that creates
that's fun.
A lot of fun for the marriage.
The divorce rate is very high with ADHD.
My life gets to teach you patience.
Yeah. But
and then we have a child with special needs as well. So we had, like, if there's something that could go wrong, it went wrong. We had, once we got married, there was toxic in-laws, that boundaries that were crossed. So it just, nothing for us came easy. And so that's why we were the least likely to succeed in marriage. I mean, there was a couple doomed from the get-go, it was Meygan and I. And I believe 100% that God used those trials, those hardships, to create Marriage 365. He gave us the strength to, have the courage to say, we're not going to follow in our parents' footsteps. We're going to change that. It ends with us, literally. Like, we're going to change and break this generational sin, because it goes back many, many generations for both of us. Our whole family's littered with divorce. And now, like, when we approach marriage, because of where we've come from, it wasn't all flowery. It was really tough. We have to be practical and very tactical with our advice, because when you're sitting across from a couple that's angry and resentful, we have to sit there and go, we know what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
And here's exactly what you need to do next. I'm not going to give you a platitude. I'm not going to give you some flowery statement, or we're not going to just talk through it. No, we're going to give you a tool and an action step that's going to help you.
Let's take a quick break to hear a message from our sponsor. Friends, I'm excited to share with you today's sponsor, WinShape Marriage. Do you feel like you need a weekend away with your spouse and a chance to grow in your relationship together at the same time? WinShape Marriage is a fantastic ministry that provides weekend marriage retreats to help couples grow closer together in every season and stage of life. From premarital to parenting to the empty nest phase, there is an opportunity for you. WinShape Marriage is grounded on the belief that the strongest marriages are the ones that are nurtured, even when it seems things are going smoothly, so that they're stronger if they do hit a bump along their marital journey. These weekend retreats are hosted within the beautiful refuge of WinShape Retreat, perched in the mountains of Rome, Georgia, which is a short drive from Atlanta, Birmingham, and Chattanooga. While you're there, you will be well-fed, well-nurtured, and well-cared for. During your time away in this beautiful place, you and your spouse will learn from expert speakers and explore topics related to intimacy, overcoming challenges, improving communication, and more. I've stayed on site at WinShape before, and I can attest to their generosity, food, and content. You will be so grateful you went. To find an experience that's right for you and your spouse, head to their website, winshapemarriage.org/savvy. That's WINSHAPE marriage.org/savvy, SAVVY. Thanks for your sponsorship. I'd love to hear even more into the redemption part of it, because Marriage 365, you had shared before we had recorded that you launched that in 2013. So just to get the timeline straight, had you already done some work and some counseling before you launched that? Or what was that journey?
Yeah. So we always say it took us 2 years to fall in love and get married. It took us 3 years to destroy our marriage. And it took about 4 or 5 years to repair our marriage. It was, as you know, Laura, it is not a quick fix when your marriage is as bad as ours. And so our story is unique in the sense where we were both not wanting to get help for our marriage. I love you, babe. But he was resistant. He didn't want to go to therapy. His family didn't go to therapy. That wasn't normalized.
Well, my faith background said that therapy's bad. from the
I think
devil.
It was specifically your parents, but
From the
yeah,
devil.
yeah, because I have a faith background too, and my parents went to therapy.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
background was that you don't do that.
Yeah. So I was wanting to get divorced, and he wouldn't divorce me. He was like, no. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it. And so I got help for myself. And I had the most amazing woman therapist who just walked me through basically how to save my marriage by myself. And she goes, listen, at the end of the day, if you want to make a better marriage, it starts by making a better you. You have zero control over Casey. You have 100% control over you. He's not here. You are. I can show you how to communicate, how to forgive him, even without getting an apology. I can show you how to bring his defenses down. I can show you how to create boundaries so he doesn't yell at you anymore. I mean, and that's literally for 13 months. I worked on myself. And I believe that is what genuinely changed everything. And that's really the message behind Marriage 365 is if you want to make a better marriage, it starts by making a better you. Stop waiting around for your husband or your wife to get on board. They may never. Then you're only going to build resentment while you sit there and wait. At the end of the day, you're responsible for how you show up. And so in that 13 months, the hope was, of course, that I would positively influence Casey, which I did. And he saw the change in me. Everything changed. I mean, like we both used to be yellers, right? We would both yell and scream. And I was like, I'm not going to yell anymore. Like, I don't want to be a yeller of a mom. I don't want to be a yeller of a wife. Like, I don't like this part of me. My mom was a yeller. I'm like, oh, yuck. I hate this. And I just remember like one day he came walking in and he was all heated and frustrated. And he started yelling at me. And do you remember what I did, babe?
Yeah. She looked at me and calmly said, I can tell that you're very upset and I really want to have to listen to what you want to share with me. Why don't you go outside, take a break, come back in. We're going to sit back on the couch and we can talk about it. I'm here for you. And I was like, what?
I changed.
Who is this person?
I changed the way that we did marriage. I did that. And I tell people that I didn't do that once. I didn't do that twice. Right. I did that for months because we had habits we had created. But I was like, that was like a new boundary. I'm like, I'm not going to engage with him when he's angry. It's when triggered. Nothing good is coming from this. So it was all of that we started to really adopt and learn together because he's like, you're a different person. Like it was obvious. We were doing the tango and now I was doing the Roomba and he was over there doing the tango. And I'm like, come join me in the healthy Roomba over here because it's way better. And so for
toxic tango.
Yeah, we went to a marriage. Yeah, we went to a marriage intensive. We did some therapy. We did a lot of self-help. But through that journey, this is kind of where we started Marriage 365 is first off, we couldn't afford therapy. We needed to pay off all that debt that we had. We had a lot of student loan debt, a lot of stupid debt. What do you do if you can't afford therapy? What do you do if you don't have a good therapist? What do you do if you have a bad experience with therapy? What do you do if the books aren't enough? And there was a really big hole and missing part in the marriage, I don't want to say industry, but in the marriage space. Where were all the online resources? Because this was back again in like 2010 when like podcasts weren't even around, social media was just becoming a thing. And it was really hard. We were really disappointed with the lack of resources there were for marriage. And it felt like every church you go to, there was, the missions ministry and the children's ministry and the youth groups, and all those are great. Where in the world are all the marriage ministries? Then we found out only 3% of churches have actual paid marriage ministries. And I thought, that's messed up. That's reverse. It's supposed to be the opposite because then everything else will work itself out, as we know with what research shows.
Same with men's ministry, by the way.
Yes, same with, men's ministry.
Men's in marriage. That's like
it's like the stepchild.
Tech guy / men's guy /
Yeah.
Children's persons can also do marriage.
So we really just started helping our friends out. Obviously people could see the change. Then people would come to us. We started helping couples at our church.
Oh, we had a ghoul pool. Like people were like, we give you guys another like 10 months and then we're expecting you to say we got divorced.
Everyone knew us thought we'd get divorced.
We were messy.
We were bad. Yeah. So to see the complete transformation. And again, I go back to that work we did was on ourselves first.
And I just have to say that if you want to make a better marriage, it starts by making a better you. If you're hearing that and you're kind of in a one-sided marriage right now, I got to just say, I know that message sucks because it's a message that says you have to go first. Yeah. And that's not fair. In a marriage, you're supposed to be a team. But I do want to say there's so many couples that are stuck waiting for their spouse to join them on the let's get healthy train. So their spouse doesn't join them. And then what they do is they kind of lean back, fold their arms and go, well, I guess we're stuck. But I want to say that there's a message of empowerment to say you do have influence and the ability to steer your marriage in a healthy way. I have lots of regret that I did not join that train much sooner. That the story is that Meygan, became the hero of our journey. And that is something that I work actively so that I'm never in that place again, that I am the one that's always actively trying to improve myself, that I'm a better communicator, that I'm not a yeller, which we've ditched that a long time ago, that I'm considerate of Meygan's needs. And I'm even like attuned to like, what is she feeling and how do I meet her where she's at?
Which is amazing that watching Meygan, it was compelling enough for you to join in. And it's admirable on both sides, the work that you've done. And are there any specific areas that you grew in that now you teach couples? I'm thinking specifically under conflict and repair or communication.
Yeah. So I remember those early years, and every single week was chaos to chaos. Like coming home, it'd be like, what's for dinner? I'm hungry and we need to make a decision now. Or, it's Friday night or Saturday morning. What's going on this weekend? Or where's all our money going? It was very reactionary. And I remember reading through Stephen Covey's, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the first habit is be proactive. You cannot be intentional with your life. You cannot create purpose and meaning unless you are proactive with your life. So Meygan and I, I'm working in a company, and every single week we get together and we go through what are everyone's goals? What do we need to accomplish this week? We find alignment, and the week goes really well. We've got KPIs. We've got all these like, hey, as a team, work team, here's what we're trying to accomplish this week. And it just kind of dawned on us like, well, why don't we do that in marriage?
Why don't we do that
We're
for
running
us?
a family. You got a family of 6. You got 6 people running around the house, all have agendas, and you are trying to find alignment. So like, hey, this is what the family's all about this week, right? We've got tournaments, we've got parties, we've got projects, we've got meals. And I think for so many couples we talk to, they live life with purpose on like building their career or their business or purpose with other areas of their life. And then when it comes to family,
they wing it. They just wing it.
Yeah. And it's like, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. It's the winging it attitude creates chaos. And so Meygan and I love to teach this tool called the weekly marriage business meeting. And it is all of the logistics of our relationship, schedules, meal plans, budgets, connection time, sexy time,
alone time, self-care time.
Yeah. And we kind of set with intention the week ahead for us. And we go through all the decisions of who's going what, where, when, and all of that's done. So that when you walk into the day, you're not like stressed about what's supposed to be happening. There's alignment and there's no missed expectations.
Yeah, there's no fights anymore about, well, you said you'd be home at 6. No, I didn't. I said I'd be home at 7. We sync our calendars. And I think too, a big thing with this is we've noticed we fight when we don't do this now. It's one of those tools that it's prevented most of conflict. I mean, we say it will, on average, for the most couples that use it, we have at least over 10,000 couples we know right now currently using it that are our members, that they say it cuts conflict in half. Because what you're doing is you're even scheduling that connection time or date night time where you're like, no matter how busy we are, when are Casey and Meygan going to get to be Casey and Meygan? And that's so important because, again, if you're winging it and you're just trying to find time to connect, well, you've got 4 kids, we've got 2 teenagers. It's never going to happen, right? And so the weekly marriage business meeting is definitely one of those amazing and favorite worksheets and tools that we've taught and that we use ourselves because it works.
Yeah.
What a game changer. That is awesome and so practical, so intentional, which we're all about. But then also, we had talked about emotional intimacy earlier, and emotional intimacy is interconnected with sexual intimacy. And communication is the root issue. And that's what you teach couples. So, what are some conversations that couples can begin so that they can grow in both of those types of intimacy and enjoyment?
Yeah. Oh, so I feel like I have to start off by saying I got this so wrong when we were first married.
It's okay. I forgive you now.
Now, because we'll be completely transparent. So Megan and I waited to have sex until we were married. So now I actually waited till I was married to have sex. And I thought that under that purity guideline, I was promised, maybe by a youth group, maybe by a convention, that if you withhold sex and remain pure, God is going to bless you with the best sex life when you're married. That just simply did not happen. Like when we first got married, I really went into the bedroom thinking, I don't know what foreplay is, but let's have intercourse until I come and then we're done. And that's sex. That's our sexual intimacy. And we missed out on so many intimate ways of knowing each other, and sex being an obligation and something like I just was demanding of it from Meygan. And what I've come to discover and what I love to teach other men is that sex is so much more broader than just having intercourse. I mean, there was this total understanding like, well, I feel good during intercourse. This feels very stimulating, which means that Meygan must feel the exact same way while we're having intercourse.
Nope.
Because listen, I never had sex before, but anytime I watched a rom-com, the guy threw her up, against the wall, or they're having intercourse and she's going and he's going and they're having a great time. Like, this must be what sex is all about. And what I've discovered now when I get to teach other men is that emotional intimacy is kind of the birthplace of sexual expression of love, right? That we create safe places for our wives to open up. And because of that, they become more willing and wanting that sexual expression, rather than us just coming in and saying, okay, it's time for sex, let's go. And so when we talk about just this book, this 365 Connecting Questions for Couples, I tell my guys, I'm like, hey, if you want to have great sex, start here.
Because that is foreplay. That's what
start
it is.
Here.
It's get to know my heart, not just use me for my body, which can feel like that for a lot of people. And I think going back to the emotional intimacy, I think that, again, you had that when you were dating, or you wouldn't have gotten married. There was no way if the person was boring, closed off, if your spouse was just completely on their phone every time, you wouldn't have had that second, third, fourth date. So there was emotional intimacy at some point, which means you can't ever say we never had it. You can always get it back, but you're gonna have to be intentional. And I think great ways, we call it connection time. I think date night scares a lot of people. I think it's the idea of, we have to go to a restaurant, we have to spend money, we have to find a babysitter. All these hurdles that you have to go through to make it happen. So then couples just don't even do it. So we're like, listen, if that's overwhelming to you, then try connection time. And really what that is, it's still undivided, attention and time with you and your spouse. Maybe it's smaller. Maybe it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I know for when our kids were little, we played board games and card games. And they'd go to bed, at 7:30 or 8, and we would bring out Yahtzee.
There'd be a lot of trash talking over chutes and ladders.
But we would play games, and it was our time to connect. And we didn't talk about the kids, we just chatted about our day. And again, going through some of these connecting questions that didn't even really exist yet, but they were in our heads. Taking a walk with the dog, going to a little local coffee shop, even if it's just 30 minutes and sharing and talking and exploring. That emotional intimacy should never stop again. And that's going to give people opportunities to then go into the bedroom, like Casey mentioned, more willing and more excited to be intimate to each other. Because it's like, oh, that's right. We like each other. We're still married. We're still friends.
You bring up a great point. Like I said, I think sitting down over the table, staring at each other can be intimidating for a lot of guys, because especially if this is not a regular habit in your relationship. And taking a walk for guys when we're doing something, and maybe it's less intimidating because we're not even staring at each other, but that kind of like getting the, oxytocin going, like getting moving, like that kind of adrenaline can actually stimulate guys for good conversations and processing things. And so what we hear from a lot of couples that take our book, maybe they'll take a picture of the question and they'll go, hey, let's take a walk. And then they'll use the question on their walk.
Yeah.
And that gets conversations going. So if that's like a on-ramp onto this, that's a great starting point for a lot of people.
Oh, that's so good. And I love how you say just an on-ramp, because the goal is more intimacy overall together, to know one another, be known. And I love that you're showing this is not a manipulation factor. This isn't ask these questions so we can be more active in the bedroom, regardless of whichever spouse is the higher desire one. But this is to really enhance all levels of your relationship. And as you talk about oxytocin, it just makes me think such an interesting cycle that the Lord created, where I will speak more stereotypically, that where women require the emotional connection and then they open up and enjoy sex more. But then men, once they've had sex and they just have this like 500% increase of oxytocin in this neurochemical bath, that opens them up emotionally. And we could see it even as we view our differences. You could be upset because they're opposite, or we can see it as a gift that they can fuel one another. And then we get more of a holistic picture of overall intimacy. So I'll also link to quite a few episodes, because we do about one per month where we dive deeper into sexual intimacy. So I can link all of those in the show notes. But Casey, were you going to say something?
I want to say something too, but he
Okay.
loves.
Well, so we're talking chicken and an egg, right? Like, who gets the emotional intimacy? Who gets the physical intimacy first? And I just think that if we approach our relationship with selfishness, well, then neither people get satisfied. But if we are an approach to serve one another
and be selfless lovers. So
men would be like, you know what? I want to meet my wife's emotional needs.
Yeah.
Like, and I do believe that men are the spark of initiation. If you're a husband out there listening to this, like, that one of your greatest gifts to marriage is initiation. You were the one who asked for the first date. You were the one who got down on the knee. You were the spark of initiation. And I believe that God's created women as nurturers of that initiation.
And to clarify, you're not talking just about initiating sex.
Right. Well, yes, just everything.
Initiating
connection
date night,
time.
Initiating a weekly marriage business meeting. Women are so turned on by when a husband's like, hey, I don't necessarily know what we want to do for a date night, but I want to take you on a date. Can I get an amen, Laura?
Amen,
right?
sister.
Yes. Hey, women are turned on. Listen, men, women are turned on by if you say, you know what? I know that like this has been an issue with my parents and I don't even know how to handle it, but I really want to have that conversation. Oh my gosh, just initiating the conversation is all we're looking for. It's okay that you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
But for men that avoid, stonewall, escape, numb out,
Not
busy themselves, it is such a turnoff. It is so not what we want.
I want to make sure that you're up to date with our latest news. We have a new website. You can visit thesavvysauce.com and see all of the latest updates. You may remember Francie Heinrichsen from episode 132, where we talked about pursuing our God-given dreams. She is the amazing businesswoman who has carefully designed a brand new website for Savvy Sauce charities, and we are thrilled with the final product. So I hope you check it out. There you're going to find all of our podcasts now with show notes and transcriptions listed, a scrapbook of various previous guests, and an easy place to join our email list to receive monthly encouragement and questions to ask your loved ones, so that you can have your own practical chats for intentional living. You will also be able to access our donation button or our mailing address for sending checks that are tax deductible so that you can support the work of Savvy Sauce Charities and help us continue to reach the nations with the good news of Jesus Christ. So make sure you visit thesavvysauce.com. Okay, so then continuing the conversation with just overall intimacy, what are some examples of de-escalation techniques that you recommend to couples who are in conflict? Ones that can maybe help the strained relationships so that they can be repaired?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a big thing that I've learned as someone who's very direct, I can tend to be on that, like I mentioned, fighter side. And I know a lot of women, studies have shown 75% of us ladies are the ones that typically bring up the issues. So just be aware that there is a gender difference there. And if you're a dude, there's nothing wrong with you if you're in, that 75% or 25%. But I think the biggest thing I've recognized is to remind your spouse in the very beginning of the conversation why you're having the conversation. I love you. I love us. I want to see us be the best people that we can be. I want to see us enjoy marriage and enjoy life. I love you. Like, bring the positivity and the reminder that you're better together than apart. And really, that's part of what we call a soft startup, right? There's a lot of different soft startups you've heard of, I feel, when you, I need, those work too. But I like to take it a little bit deeper to say, remind your spouse how much that you love being married to them. Or again, whatever the issue is, like, we have the most, let's say it's parenting. Casey and I are very different in our parenting styles. Last night would have been a great difference of how that happened. But like, reminder that like, we both love our children. We both want the best for our kids. No one doubts that. We both have we made two beautiful, wonderful, quirky children, right? And so even you can start the conversation with that. But I wish that more people did that. Because I think people are, I'm really upset about something. Okay, well, the second you say that, defenses are going to go up. We want to keep the conversations, defenses low, guards low, right? De-escalation. And so use soft startups, use kind, positive language. But I think another thing behind that would be come to the conversation processed. Do not have these conversations 11 o'clock at night when you're tired or when you're hungry. Do not have these conversations when it just happened and you haven't had the time to just like stop, think about, what do I really need? Why did that trigger me? What am I hoping to achieve? Why is my husband acting this way? Oh, is he under a lot of stress? Yeah. We got to give ourselves time to sit and process before we even use those soft startups. So that would be my advice for de-escalation.
And mine actually would be an apology. I think that we all make mistakes. And when you think about a couple that's maybe living reactively, just winging it, I doubt that there's ever an apology that's given on either side, because it takes awareness to recognize, gosh, you know what? That little comment I just made, that probably had a little zing to it, or I really let my spouse down by not parenting the children the way she would want me to. Or, I said I was going to do something and I didn't, and I let my partner down. You want to de-escalate a tense situation, apologize.
Yep, own it.
When you apologize, you're taking all of the heat out of the fire. You're really are.
And you're validating your spouse's feelings.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to be validated and seen? Everybody does.
And then you're taking responsibility and accountability for your actions, which is the trust builder for relationships. So that's why when you talk about high conflict relationships, there's not a lot of trust there. It's not a safe place anymore. So to create that safety, we want to build trust back into the relationship.
Those are fantastic. And do you guys just have maybe a handful of ideas for ways that couples can strengthen their marriage with one another?
Absolutely. I would say, obviously, the weekly marriage business meeting. I mean, I know we talked about it, but the important thing is to schedule it. Put it in the calendar, because you don't want to wing it. And that way it's showing, oh, you're prioritizing us. Taking walks has been a big one for us. Playing games is a big one.
The 60-second blessing is where we intentionally spend time, 60 seconds, reminding our partner of how much we love them, using our words to say, like, I saw how hard you work for the family. I love how you take care of the kids, and kind of reminding your partner, like, I see the goodness in each other. And I think that's really important because day-to-day life, we can just be very transactional. And if we have any sort of criticism, or, our words just are not flavored with life. Well, Proverbs says, our words have the power to give life or to give death, right? So the words that we speak, if we evaluate, are we producing what I call weed seeds, or are we planting fruit trees? Because weed seeds choke out the garden. Those sharp, critical words can leave your garden looking pretty shabby. Whereas being intentional by speaking positive over each other, it's like planting fruit trees. And who doesn't like a good, juicy orange, right?
Well, and the 60-second blessing, you start off by writing 5 to 7 positive things you love about your spouse. And so one spouse shares their list for 60 seconds, and then the second spouse shares their list. And it's this habit that we actually started doing after our marriage intensive that we did as we were repairing our marriage, because we had spoken such mean and harsh words, or just a lot of roommate stuff, and we needed that positivity. And it's a great foreplay tip, by the way, just to sometimes sit down and go, I just need to tell you how wonderful you are. Like, who doesn't want to hear that about themselves? I think another thing that Casey and I have recognized, it is the only thing, by the way, Laura, in our marriage, the only thing that has ever stayed consistent. That's we have fun together. We laugh a lot, even in the hard times.
Yeah.
It wasn't as enjoyable, but we still had fun. And, again, fun is different for everybody. We don't ever want to judge someone else's fun, but we are constantly like, we are sarcastic, but that's for us because we have high trust levels. I usually tell couples, if you're, in affair recovery or you have low trust levels, sarcasm is probably not great, but we're very playful. We play a lot of fun games. We play ping pong and cornhole, and we take our dog on a walk, and we're going to try to go axe throwing in April. We've never done that before. Like, there are fun that we've taken dance lessons. So we like to think out of the box and do new things, or things that we know that, like, how many games of Yahtzee have we played? I don't even know. I mean, we've lost count. Or gin rummy, we just sequence, Rummikub, like we play them all. And for us, that's really fun. We dance a lot. We love the 90s music. Like, get out your favorite playlist and just dance and sing and be goofy. Like, I think if couples were to laugh and enjoy each other more and be able to laugh at themselves, I think that there would be more marriages that would stay together.
That is something that I've even experienced in this time together. You guys are so fun to be around, and that's very life-giving to others, but I can see where it starts in that secret place between just the two of you, your best friend. And you share a lot of this goodness with Marriage 365. So can you let us know all the different things that you have to offer?
Yeah. I would probably say the number one way that people experience all of the resources that we've created over the years is through our mobile app. So we have an app that has over 1,000 pieces of, videos, worksheets, courses, challenges. We even have a checkup so you can actually rate kind of your marriage. And that is a great way for people to be able to have access, on the spot. If they're dealing with an issue, they don't know how to get through, and they're looking for a tool or a conversation to help them work through that our app provides such a valuable resource. I mean, beyond that, some couples need a little bit more hands-on approach. So we do coaching. We have a coaching staff actually to handle all the incoming couples that are saying, "Hey, can you help us out?" And again, I just want to say coaching is really, really focused on giving action plans and homework and accountability to our clients. And coaching is really, really helpful if you're like, I just need to know what to do next.
Yeah.
We do intensives for couples that are in crisis, that are seriously considering separation or divorce or an affair recovery.
And that we have an over 90% success rate because we went through an intensive when we were struggling, and it was something we knew we wanted to get trained on and do. And it's a full 2 days with Casey and I. I mean, 2 days back to back. We know you. We get Christmas cards from all of our couples, every year. We love it.
Yeah.
And they become almost, I mean, yes, they're our clients, but they almost become like our friends.
Yeah. And then probably personally, one of my favorite things that we do is we host our own couples getaway. And this is a 4-day experience. It's not like a typical retreat where you're sitting in a conference room, you're just getting lectured all day. We're actually facilitating tools and then giving couples opportunities to work on them. Then some free time to really spend some time making great memories. We have a dance party. It is a ton of fun. It's like a second honeymoon.
Yeah, we make sure it's fun. It's definitely more for couples who are doing okay and want to do better. They're not ideal for couples in crisis, because then it's going to be very uncomfortable.
I love our retreats, though.
I know. They're fun.
I love interacting with her.
And of course, we have our social media. You can just search Marriage 365, and then we have our website too. And we have our books, of course.
Oh, and I have a men's group. I launch a 5-week men's reset.
Needless to say, Laura, we're really busy. We do a lot. I think that's what's funny, right? I think that people see us online and they think that we just have an Instagram or we just have a Facebook. And I'm like, we've been doing this for 12 years and we have a staff of 12 people. So we reach a lot of people, and because marriage is never a one-stop, one size fits all. It's true. There's so many different dynamics. And we want to be able to help as many people as we can.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. We will add all of those links. I love all these different offerings that you have that will meet people in whatever phase they're in. But you two already know we are called the Savvy Sauce because savvy is synonymous with practical knowledge. And so as my final question for both of you, what is your Savvy Sauce?
Mine would be, I would want every single person to think about becoming more confident. And that starts with becoming more self-aware. I think that has completely changed who I am. And we're raising 2 kids, and I see the confidence that they have, and we're modeling that, but also walking them through how to be self-aware. And really that starts with having to be one with your thoughts, turning off the phone, turning off the podcast sometimes, turning off the music, and just actually sitting and really going, do I really know my thoughts, my feelings, my values, my personality, my good, my bad, my ugly? And we don't do this enough. We busy ourselves. We're distracted constantly. And I think that it's really harming our mental health. And so that would be my Savvy Sauce.
I love that, babe. It's kind of hard because we find so much alignment. I mean, that's exactly what I would say too. My focus in 2025 has really been turned towards helping husbands. And there's a quote that Henry David Thoreau says that many men live lives of quiet desperation and they die with their song still inside them. And most guys are terrified of stopping and evaluating. And so for me, creating space to listen. I do a 10-10-10 practice in the morning.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I was like, I bet you he's going to talk about, because it's been life-changing for you.
Yeah. So I spend 10 minutes of scripture reading. So that's input. Then I spend 10 minutes of quiet meditation where I'm sitting and I'm in a listening posture. And I mean, I think about everything from lasagna to the last wave I surfed but there's intentionality about just opening myself. Like, here I am. I'm ready to be downloaded on like what you have for me today, God.
Be one with your thoughts.
Yeah. And all sorts of things come up. And then I spend 10 minutes journaling. And that process is and that's like the output, right? So now I've got input, I've been listening, and now I get to write stuff out. And that's been a huge game changer for me.
Wow. I love both of those. You two are just refreshingly vulnerable and such an incredible mixture of intentional and lighthearted. And it has been so great just to sit under your teaching today. So thank you for sharing your story and for helping all of us. And thank you just for being my guests.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yes, you asked great questions that plumb the deep wells of Casey and Meygan.
One more thing before you go. Have you heard the term gospel before? It simply means good news, and I want to share the best news with you. But it starts with the bad news. Every single one of us were born sinners, but Christ desires to rescue us from our sin, which is something we cannot do for ourselves. This means there is absolutely no chance we can make it to heaven on our own. So for you and for me, it means we deserve death and we can never pay back the sacrifice we owe to be saved. We need a Savior. But God loved us so much, He made a way for His only Son to willingly die in our place as the perfect substitute. This gives us hope of life forever in right relationship with Him. That is good news. Jesus lived the perfect life we could never live and died in our place for our sin. This was God's plan to make a way to reconcile with us so that God can look at us and see Jesus. We can be covered and justified through the work Jesus finished if we choose to receive what He has done for us. Romans 10:9 says that if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. So would you pray with me now? Heavenly Father, thank you for sending Jesus to take our place. I pray someone today, right now, is touched and chooses to turn their life over to you. Will you clearly guide them and help them take their next step in faith to declare you as Lord of their life? We trust you to work and change lives now for eternity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. If you prayed that prayer, you are declaring Him for me, so me for Him. You get the opportunity to live your life for Him. And at this podcast, we're called the Savvy Sauce for a reason. We want to give you practical tools to implement the knowledge you have learned. So you ready to get started? First, tell someone. Say it out loud. Get a Bible. The first day I made this decision, my parents took me to Barnes & Noble and let me choose my own Bible. I selected the Quest NIV Bible and I love it. You can start by reading the book of John. Also, get connected locally, which just means tell someone who's a part of a church in your community that you made a decision to follow Christ. I'm assuming they will be thrilled to talk with you about further steps, such as going to church and getting connected to other believers to encourage you. We want to celebrate with you too, so feel free to leave a comment for us here if you did make a decision to follow Christ. We also have show notes included where you can read scripture that describes this process. And finally, be encouraged. Luke 15:10 says, "In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." The heavens are praising with you for your decision today. And if you've already received this good news, I pray you have someone to share it with. You are loved, and I look forward to meeting you here next time.